How are you doing?
Pretty good. It's really busy.
Well, let's see what we can do to lighten your load. Let's start by talking about the life science lesson you just taught.
Okay.
Just so we're on the same page, the purpose of our conversation today is to reflect on your students' thinking and learning with respect to the targeted idea for the lesson. Let's use the stoplight model for reflection to guide our conversation.
Sounds good to me.
So remind me, what was the learning target for this lesson?
I wanted students to understand that the number of organisms living in a particular population is limited to the resources the organisms have access to.
And by the end of the lesson, do you think students understood that?
Well, I think that students got a general idea about what animals need to maintain their population, but I don't think they really thought about plant populations.
The resources animals need were easier for students to come up with, but thinking about the resources that plant populations need to be successful wasn't as easy. What evidence do you have that supports your ideas about what your students are thinking?
If you look at the lists the students generated about the resources organisms need to maintain a population, they really only listed what animals need. I guess that some of the resources could relate to plants, but I'm not sure that is what they are thinking.
I wonder what is causing the students to only think about animals. What do you think were some things that helped or hindered students' understanding of the targeted idea?
Well, in elementary school, the students learned that all animals need food, water, air, and shelter to survive. But I'm not sure how much they have discussed what plants need. Also, I don't think they think of plants in terms of a population.
So, there are a couple of concerns that you mentioned. Students not thinking about resources plants need, and students not thinking about how plants can be represented as a population. Of these two, which is the most important for developing students' understanding of the learning target?
I think they are both important. They need to understand that there are populations of plants, and they also need to know the resources that plant populations need to be successful.
Do you think students need the same amount of time to address both ideas?
Well, we could have a quick discussion about what makes something a population and how it applies to all organisms, including plants. The resources part is more involved, though.
So, it seems like you have a plan for addressing the population part, which is great. What are some ways you could address the resources that plant populations need?
I don't know.
Well, I have done some things in the past that might work well here. One is to divide up the class into groups and assign each group either plants or animals, and have each group generate a list of the types of resources each may need to maintain their population. Another is to have students make a T-chart of animals and plants and list the resources they each need. Or you could work as a class to create posters on the needs of animals and plants, and then students could use that as a reference for future study. Of these options, is there one that you think would work well with your students?
I think I might combine two of these. I might have them make a T-chart individually, and then, as a whole class, make a poster. That might help since the students will be looking at how plants and animals compete for these resources. Do you think that's a good idea?
Sounds good. Let's see how it goes.
Great, I'll try it.